The next person I'm going to bring up to the stage is someone who's deeply influential in my life. We all need advocates and allies, and I think one of the best ones that I have is in the development director of UNM-Taos, Mr. Luis Moya. He's also the co-founder and co-coordinator of this institute, and he is going to promise to take this to great places. So he's an incredible asset to our community, Mr. Luis Moya.
Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good time so far. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Rachel. I'm really pleased to be here and see all of you here today. I think this is the beginning of something that's going to be really valuable and necessary for our future. And I'm especially honored to be introducing our next guest, Illac Diaz, who I've known for about 3 years. And the reason we're all here today is actually because of Illac, and I'll get into that in a little bit later. I want to tell a couple stories about him before he comes out. But I'd like to talk a little bit about him. Illac is a social entrepreneur working in the ASEAN region, empowering communities through the use of sustainable construction and appropriate technologies. Through his organization, the My Shelter Foundation, he has pioneered several programs in rammed earth, bamboo, and PET plastic bottle construction, building important institutions like schools, dormitories, and learning centers. Another of Illac's programs, the Leader of Light, has helped to bring light in the form of solar and solar-powered lighting using recycled plastic soda bottles to thousands upon thousands of homes in poor and rural areas around the world. And we're finishing up a display. You'll be able to have a firsthand demonstration of what this light means to a lot of these people. It is only fitting that Illac, whose name is an Aztec term meaning God of light, that he is in a unique position to inspire others with ideas, vision, and passion to create enterprises that uplift sectors of society that would otherwise be forgotten. He is pioneering a whole new field of entrepreneurship, one that seeks to bring the strengths, efficiencies, and solutions to businesses and communities that bear on the problems of society. Illac completed his bachelor's degree in management economics from the Ateneo de Manila University. He completed his master's degree in entrepreneurship at the Asian Institute of Management, and he continued to pursue further development by attending the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Boston to study urban planning. And finally, and more recently, he completed his master's of political administration at Harvard's Kennedy School. In 2008, Illac was named a Young Global Leader of 2008 by the World Economic Forum in Geneva, Switzerland. And in this year, he was chosen as a 2014 TED Global Fellow. These are all things that make Illac exceptional, but what makes him essential is his tireless commitment to making the world a better place. Not only is Illac one of the most inspiring people I've ever met, he is genuinely one of the kindest and friendliest. And hopefully you'll get a chance to meet him before the conference is over. I'd like to share a few stories about Illac before we start that are relevant to his presence here today, and the first one I'm stealing from Mark Goldman. I hope he doesn't mind me stealing his thunder here, but Mark met Illac a number of years ago when Mark was out at Harvard at the School of Architecture working on a rammed earth project. And Mark was out there in the Commons working on the rammed earth structure. And there were a number of people who were coming in and out helping with the structure, and there's a gentleman standing next to him as they were ramming the earth, and Mark assumed that this gentleman was one of the architecture students in the school, and they got to talking, and he realized that this was Illac Diaz, who was walking down the street. He lived nearby and thought he needed some help, so he just stopped and decided to help him. And so that fated conversation led to them discussing sustainability initiatives. And that's just really, really kind of telling about the kind of person Illac is. He'll roll his sleeves up and jump into any project that he sees needs help. And another important story here is that 2 years ago, Illac was a speaker for our fall lecture series, and he was so excited to come to this area to visit, to see all the different sustainability initiatives that we've had in the area, from the traditional ones, the Pueblo architecture and building, to some of the newer things. And one of the things he said as we were having dinner, and he kept pressing this point, was that we are the best situated place to really lead the country, if not the world, in sustainability initiatives because of the mindset of the people here. And I think his words were, you'd be ignorant to not take advantage of this opportunity to help the world. So this institute was incepted as a function of Illac's inspiration. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Illac Diaz.
Hello, thank you very much. I think when I started out, I started out from a top-down approach, which is that people needed your help. You needed to come there, raise funds, and be able to do the work. And later on, during my work, this kind of messiah complex, this kind of coming in and helping, was not sustainable unless you empowered people to help themselves. And this humility to really say that the purest form of charity is to make yourself obsolete. And so this was basically where this whole mission came out of, is I didn't want to spend 80% of my time raising funds and then just maybe 10% of it actually working on the ground. And the thing there was, could I spend more than 80% of it and make sure that instead of in a cash burn kind of way where the money would disappear, that I would be able to empower communities to be able to come up with businesses that later on when you come back, they would actually have earned it and use the technology to build better. So, no. 1 second, let me do it. So, yeah, okay, that's my PowerPoint. Do you have a clicker? Yeah, so why did this whole thing started? Because in 2006 was the beginning really of this kind of challenges. And what challenge is this? It was that the Philippines is the most situated out in the Pacific. Of course, there's Guam, but we were getting hit by stronger and stronger typhoons. And so when a typhoon in 48 hours would destroy 10 million houses, then you start realizing how you cannot do the same thing before, which is go somewhere, build a school, build a house, and then that would be your project, and then you would do that every year. So you would gather funds, build a school, gather houses. I would end up doing like 10, maybe 10 schools a year. And then a typhoon would come in and destroy about 7,000 classrooms. So this is where I started thinking, like, how do we do this where we empower people to build stronger? Is that correct? Yeah. And then villages would sink. They would lose all power, food, mobility. So we had, like, I would say, this kind of idea, which, is that correct? No. Sorry, I'm just trying to learn this. We're starting to think, we went to Nadhir Khalili. I was one of the first students from the Philippines to start learning about earth bag construction. And it was really important for me to start realizing that between empty land and cement, steel, and glass, which the farmers and the people used to go into a financial situation to be able to build a simple house or to be able to rebuild, there must have, if houses are important, then there must be thousands of other options out there. And so this began my search. Now, what was important to me at that time was not necessarily houses. What was important to me was all the schools that were destroyed. And what would happen is on the very grounds that the school got destroyed, they were these rectangular schools with parlance and galvanized roof, they would get destroyed, and they would clean the grounds and build exactly with the same way. And I asked them, why are you rebuilding when just 2 months ago the schools were destroyed? And they would go, well, we already have the number of hollow blocks, the number of steel bars, the number of parlance, the number of metal sheets, and we have also the income of the contractor. So because we already have this in our system, We don't want to change it. And what makes this even better, and I was talking to them, is every time it breaks, we have a whole new contract. So every 2 to 3 years, when we have this kind of strong disasters, I mean, these guys are making money by rebuilding the exact same thing. So I was like, this is just the most horrible kind of situation. It's like I build the road badly, because if I build it too well, then, a couple of years down the road, my company doesn't have a job. So this is the situation in the developing world. That the classrooms, the contractors of the classrooms, the reason why they want to have the exact same system is because when they rebuild it in mass, they know exactly how much amount of money they're making. And so this is the thing there. How do you counteract this? By galvanizing community to be able to participate, gathering people and contracting against the contractors to be able to win. So our idea was, we are 7,100 islands. And when the typhoon hits, it goes across the town, across the province, across islands. I mean, you have basically problems of having to ship cement, steel, and glass across water. So as you're shipping it, the cost goes so high, and plus you're going to import everybody there. By the time it comes there, the classroom is about 35 square meters for 60 children. And because it's so small, the local government has to do 3 shifts of people just because there's not enough classrooms anymore. So what we're saying is, if we can build it there, build it bigger, win the bid because we're using local materials, local people, could we make a difference? And so that's the long story short. So if we could build with local people, local materials, can we outbid this kind of traditional contractors? And that's where the My Shelter Foundation was founded. Because what we started doing is using indigenous materials, using local labor so the money stays there, but at the same time creating this kind of grassroots company, we call it Middle Ground, where we would be able to do twice the space of any contractor for the same amount of money, and yet we would get a 30% income. So it was a great new kind of company which was localized, and at the same time we were able to beat them at their game. So that's how we did it. Of course, this was one of the first ones we built, which was a clinic. It didn't, this is like a beach house, because my house is basically in the, I didn't want it to get destroyed every single typhoon. So, well, these are the classrooms that we do, which is we have to do it in a square. So we do have to rebuild them, but at the same time, we can't get too funky about it. So we use the same tradition of Nadir Kalili. But the interesting thing there was, we would use this only for mountains. We would carve out that area of the mountainside that we would use, and we would be able to build a structure there. What's nice is these are also the places where people run to because of in the emergency. So when we have all of these people during these typhoons, and they're hitting about 300 kilometers per hour, 20 of them, 20 typhoons, 5 of them destructive, they now use this as disaster areas. So we're now building these kind of classrooms on the islands to be able to better assist it. But one of my passions is bamboo. I'm a specialist now with bamboo, and I had the hardest time to figure out how to make the bugs keep out of bamboo. And it turns out we have this really hot chili, which is called siling labuyog. So before, people just used to paint it with some kind of varnish or some kind of chemical. But then over time, over 3 to 5 years, the water from the rain would continuously wash out the chemical from the bamboo. And then that's the time that it would eat. So what happens is we figured out that if we put it in kind of a mush and we dip it inside, the insects that would bite into it would develop all kinds of, not resilience, but they would not tolerate the chili. So we'd keep it inside, and we would wrap it, of course, with varnish, and that was the best way to do it. So non-toxic, and so I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm thinking about the energy solution. But what was important to us is we were able to convince governments to grow farms of bamboo. And as the population would increase, we would be able to harvest it. We would pay the farmer for the bamboo. We would pay the local labor to build the bamboo construction. But at the same time, we came up with this really typhoon-resilient schools. It's like putting, those brooms, one twig, it would easily break. But if you bundled it correctly, that it would actually be resilient. And if it breaks, you don't have to go to a hardware store to fix it. You just gather bamboo, and then you would be able to do it. So we were able to convince governments, especially in the islands, why invest in cement, steel, and glass? You'll see how small the classroom is. And for the same amount of classroom that one classroom would cost, we would have this mega structure, which was beautiful, airy, and at the same time, it paid the local people. So one of the things we did also with Nadhir Khalili was we started looking if the earth bag was this big, in disaster areas, we would get tons and tons of plastic bottles. And so instead of throw that away, we were saying, well, how can we reuse it? Oops, okay. So we would gather these people. We have, on islands, there's no way to throw away your trash. So they do the same thing, they landfill it. But over the next couple of years, you have a 15-story trash mound. This is the top where I took the photo, and that's the town. Can you imagine how high the trash heap is? These are all from tourist industry. So they would come there, they would drink their plastic bottles, but they're never thinking that there's no way for that trash to get off that island. And so they have a place where they just gather this thing over the years, and it's like the pyramid, the Giza of trash. It's huge. The other thing is sometimes they even wrap it and they just float it out into the water. Because the thing there is, they don't even want to put it there anymore because there's just no more space. Because it would spread out, right? We had people living by the trash because that's their business. But now we were able to work with the government over the last 5 years because so many people were dying. Because the thing there is that when the trash would get wet, sometimes it would just topple onto the trash pickers. And so we made trash areas. The point was we wanted to move them. We wanted to move them from picking trash into construction. So from the plastic bottles, what we did was we had such a hard time putting trash inside. So we were trying to get inspired from around the world, and a lot of people were putting trash inside. So what they did is we shredded the trash, mixed it with mud, and just liquidated it and liquidated the trash and the mud inside, like some kind of slurry. And this was so nice because we would get volunteers to just come in to shred the trash, and at the same time the mud would push it inside, and when it dried it was a pretty tough brick. You could run a truck over it. And then to link it together, we didn't have that much money for steel bars. Once again, right, this thing about moving steel over to your boat, and from your boat to a truck to the site. So chicken feathers, there's one of the main food is chicken. No, we didn't mix chickens inside the. But chicken is one of the key dishes, and the feathers would be thrown away. And if you know anything about hair or feathers, it's made out of keratin. It just doesn't go away as well. It lasts hundreds of years. If you open up a mummy, the one thing is there's bones, nails, and hair. So all these chicken feathers were being thrown away along with the waste, and it lasts a terribly long time. And so what we did was we ground up the chicken feathers and mixed it in the cement, and this would form such a very strong. Not only it was 96% less cracking, but it would be the steel bars holding the structure into place. So we would have. We use what is called a sausage maker. Instead of a used pumping machine, we use a sausage maker, mix the slurry, and then pump it in the bottles. We would make about 300-400 bricks a day, and then we would be able to, build this kind of huge schools. And so, with the glass bottles that were thrown away, apparently they drink a lot of gin in my country. There was, flat glass, this flat glass. costs a serious amount of money, especially because you have to get it. So we wanted to decentralize it because if you use manufactured materials, by the time it reaches the islands, it just costs too much. So people don't really need to look outside. What they need is the sun to come in. And so in 1 week's worth from the resorts, we would be able to make a huge, it's probably this big, of a glass wall. And then we would be able about, in a month's time, to gather this much plastic bottles. But it was back. Okay. But the thing there is, you would be able to build a classroom every 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, with just the amount of junk that was thrown away by the resorts for free, and then I would be able to go against any local contractor building against cement, steel, and glass and win it. How could you build twice the same amount of... Yeah. Yeah, they call me the bottle man because I'm always collecting bottles. But the point is, if you have the same factor when you're competing, what they do to try to beat another contractors, they put more sand in the cement. So going back to my same problem, why these classrooms are completely destroyed, is because there's so much sand in the cement to be able to build cheaper, to beat everybody else. And so the thing there is, you have to beat them at their own game by just being completely different, something they've never seen before. So we built about 600 classrooms, and every month we can now build it because we have such free mud, free junk, but at the same time we build it 2 to 3 times stronger than any of the classrooms in existence. So the thing there is, when people talk about sustainability, the point is, I think it's the greatest revolution out there, except that people just don't realize how effective it is. Now, that's because you're thinking about you coming in and help and doing it. But the thing there is, once you teach the people themselves, I don't even know how many classrooms I'm building, because the point there is it's now gone to areas around the country where they're just, instead of floating it off, I can actually see at the back of their houses, they're collecting bottles for their children's schools. And if you're interested, I have home for the elderly, so there's a lot of stuff that goes on. So one of the things that we had a problem with was glass bottles were also great ways for light to come in. But at the same time, we couldn't get enough of them. And so one of the things we did was look at this thing called liter Blight, which is essentially a bottle. You put in water, and you put the ones filled with mud, and then every meter and half a meter, you put one glass of bottle filled with water. Now, the thing that's important to us, the reason why we did that is because when there's a storm, the first thing people and teachers do is they close the window. So there's absolutely no air. And at the same time, the window is so small, so little light comes in. And so the thing we did is we separated the wind and the light. So we would put plastic bottles, let me see. We would put, for the wind, we would put pipes through the, so we would put hundreds of pipes through the structure. And so when wind would come out this way, what happens is when the wind goes on the other side, so it blows this way, it would create a suction where the heat, so the wind would come here, but the structure, it would suck out the heat from the other side. And we put glass bottles full of water, so you would get light, but at the same time, you would take away the heat. So we had to separate that. So those are the things that we start to have to look at. And so this bottle light by Alfredo Moser was interesting for us because this is not a new invention. The Arabs used it in their spas. I mean, glass has been always a way for a prism for it to go through. But if you fill it with water and bleach, it stops the algae from growing, and you would be able to light up a 35 square meter. So everybody's thinking about building housing, refugee housing. Nobody's thinking that at night it's just horrible because there's absolutely no light. Now, what is important in this whole discussion? Aren't there, international groups coming in and giving light? Aren't there aid agencies that are giving thousands of solar lights? And I tell you this, the reason why we had to reinvent it was nobody sticks around 3 years afterwards and asks the same question: does large-scale solar for developing country work? And the answer is, it doesn't. I go around the islands where my classrooms are, and I see landfill filled with solar lights, solar mobile lights, solar chargers. I see large, like for example, the British government, to the areas that are destroyed now in late in summer, $300 million. Solar pumps, refrigeration equipment. The point is, it has to be a business so that it earns and maintains itself. Because if it's not, and you just give it to a school or a house or a hospital, the point there is there's batteries on those things. Those lithium-ion batteries or whatever battery breaks down in 2.5 years. And because it's so expensive, and because you can't just order one or two, you have to order them in volume from other countries, they're all not repairable. So if you go around the countryside, you see these huge panels on the classrooms, and you ask them, is it working? Well, it did work for 1 year, 1.5 years, but then after that, we couldn't repair it anymore. So of the $300 million when the disaster struck, that's the first thing we went to. And you know how many were working? 0. 2.5 years afterwards, 0 were working. So what people are not telling other people is large-scale solar does not work if you don't have a business to look after it. So that means you'd rather have it in one area where somebody has a large-scale solar farm where you sell it. But to just give solar or this pocket solar, they break. In fact, they're designed to break because the business in the developing world is that every time it breaks, of course it's tough because you go under microcredit, which has 60% interest in a year. So after you finally buy it after 2 years, it breaks, you have to buy a new one. And this is the business model of not being self-sufficient. You have to import it from China. You have to import it from a mass manufacturer. But you never teach the local people how to repair it. You never teach the local people how to build it. Why? Because you lose the fact that you're a business and you want to make money continuously. So the business of solar in the developing world is not to teach them how to do it themselves. So that's when Liter of Light happened. So Liter of Light is not the plastic bottle light. That's great during the day. But the point is, from a developing world point of view, is how do you make the biggest solar lighting movement by not being a centralized unit? How do you make yourself obsolete? So this was the crazy idea that we had. Wait, I'll show you a little bit of video. Sorry, I'm just not coordinated, but I don't know why it's not working. But so wait, wait. Let me just do the Taos. Where's the Taos? The Taos. Oh, sorry. Let me just pull it up. So let me show you how it looks like. Let's make this large. Yeah, can you play it? So what we did was we started out with the daylight, and then once you have the daylight, I'll show you now the nightlight.
Itong lugar namin, Sitio Maligay dos, San Vicente, San Pedro, Laguna.
Eh, siyempre, alam mo naman, ganitong lugar, squatter area, tabing release, dikit-dikit ang bahay.
Madilim talaga rito sa lugar ko na to.
Wala kami dito sa loob, lagi kami sa labas.
Nadadapa kasi madilim, yung dadaan mo, hindi mo alam, may nakaharang.
Tutulog na lang ako, wala ilaw eh.
Ang tawag niya sa akin dito si Mang Dimi Solar. Napaliwanag ko yung mga bahay niya na madilim. Bubutas ko ng yero, lalagay mo yung bote, lagyan mo siya ng sealant, bago lagyan mo siya ng tubig na mineral, lalagyan ng sunrox. Bago kabit mo sa bahay, lagyan mo sealant mo para hindi tumulo. Gano'n lang kasimple yun. Dati yung ganito, tukang dilim nung bago ko pagkapitan. Ngayon, nung kapitan ko na, ito na ang liwanag niya. Yan ang liwanag.
Pumili po ako kasi bote lang, tubig. Maliwanag na yung bahay mo.
Bumaba yung ano ko, binayaran ko ngayon. Simula nang makabitan ako dito. At saka itong solar bottle bulb na to, hindi mainit.
Dahil sa buti na yan, sa solar na buti na yan, gumanda ang araw namin.
Ang nalagyan na namin ito ay bali 643. Gusto nga namin tuloy-tuloy para marami nga matulungan mga tao rin na yung maliwanagan mga bahay nilang madidilim.
Parang katulad na rin ng bumilya. Yung dati natin nakakalimutan at pakinabangan na ngayon. Maliwanag nga sa bahay namin!
So the trick here is decentralized. What if you have an open source solution that everybody in the world can copy, and everybody in the world, especially young people, with simple things they can find around their surroundings, with a snip, a little bit of bleach, light, they could be able to light up during the day. Why does it have to be a solar panel with an inverter, with something to light up during the day? In our part, it's like, wait a minute, it's inconceivable for us to have to go such a technical way to be able to get light in your house when we have light all the time. You know, we have light every day. Now, sorry, the next one is, wait 1 second. Yeah, wait. So what we did was we open sourced this, and we started a revolution. We started out with one plastic bottle in 2011, and one beneficiary, and then one entrepreneur. So what happens is we teach people with a simple toolkit to be able to start a business, right? So they would go around and they would, for $2, they would earn 50 cents. They would light up the houses all around their neighborhood. So they would get paid. So we basically, after toolkit, didn't have to put in any more money to be able to install solar lights. So, and remember, this is not just the solar panel. This is not just the product, but a lot of people don't realize that the installation cost is pretty big. I'm talking about $2 installed and working, right? This is not like it comes in and you say, oh, I have a solar light. No, you have to get installers to come in and pay, I don't know how much labor rate. So the idea was not big, but can we make it as small as a sachet so that all the parts can be done? So this is the daylight, okay? So this is just the start of the story. So I just want to show you something. So when we released it to the world, realizing that open source makes a lot of young people be able to make a difference, so this is what happens in a year and a half. That we ended up
I think the movement for
in
literal
20
light
countries
is not
around the
about
world.
any one person. It's about a bottle saving a family.
We're now 540,000 in 2 years.
Malaki, matanda, bata, di ba? And the citizenry as well as the local government unit. Nakikialam lahat.
Brazil!
It's nice to know that you can do it again and again and again.
See ya? Yeah, exactly.
And it grows. And you know you're part of something bigger.
habéis hecho un trabajo de vino.
Nada más ha dicho, y mamá, vamos a poner más, no, está bien esto. Van a poner más, mamá, queda mucha luz.
Ito ring start ng revolution para magkaroon ng bagong pag-asa sa mga kabarangay namin na mahihirap.
I guess the inspiration of it is that you know yourself, you need it. So that knowledge should push you to help others. Kung tatanungin mo lang sarili mo, anong gagawin mo kung walang ilaw?
So back to the PowerPoint. So the point all of here is, how do you start moving away from a centralized way of doing it, which is one manufacturing plant, one owner of solar technologies, one patent holders. I mean, for us, if you're talking about 1 billion people without light, there's no conceivable way, if you hold everything in your pocket, in your company, in your patent, in your fundraising, to actually help all of these people. The only way is to go global. How come we're so into the crowdsourcing of ideas, crowdsourcing of funds, but we're not into the crowdsourcing of volunteerism? Because you want to keep your product. You want to make sure that you're the one that flies all the way there with I don't know how many thousands of dollars so you could go there and make a difference. When I'm telling you the opposite way, which is open it up to the world, how it works. Make it small enough that any young volunteer or anybody with a small technical knowledge can start this revolution. Why does it have to be big when people don't even have a single light, right? So, upgrade of the light. The business model is this. The business model is, remember, and I talk about a social business model, which is the number of bottle lights that we install for $2 is actually the marketing venture, which is we take a database of everybody that we install, and when they start saving electricity or they stop using candle lights inside, we go back to them in 2 months and say, how much have you saved? $10, $20? And we say, would you like to upgrade that? Would you like to, same with McDonald's, right? Would you want an upgrade? And they say, what's an upgrade? Well, we will take your plastic bottle and we will stick a community-made, stick a community-built, so let me show you how it looks like. Remember, we don't manufacture this in a central plant, but we use cooperatives. Everybody that installs the light, we use them as well. So it's like eight pieces. You can find all the parts in your local electronic shop. Because e-cigarettes are so strong now, we use the e-cigarette battery, and we have the large. So yeah, clean. We're converting cigarette. So if we can finish all those e-cigarette batteries, we actually help people because there's no more in the market. We just buy all the e-cigarette batteries, and then we produce in the Philippines. We have SunPower, one of the largest producers of solar panels, except they never thought of selling in the country because nobody actually produces any solar products in the country. They sell it to China, China sells it back to us. And yet, we produce hundreds and hundreds of thousands of solar cells, like 10 minutes from where I live. So I was saying, look, we have the solar cells, we have this battery, we have little things. Now, the reason why we do it in this plate instead of mass manufacturing it is, even this, the circuit board itself, the women, I can show you later, they just pentel pen it and then they dip it in acid, and then when they take it out, they have a circuit board. So if it breaks, even the circuit board itself can be built by hand. So my switch is broken a little bit, but the point is, sorry. It's a bit broken because I used it for my trip. But the point is, little plastic bottle, it can be a candle, and that's 1 watt. We have other stuff. So would you like to upgrade that? And so the same person that installs the bottle is the same person that makes the solar light. So he can buy the kits from us, or he can buy it from his local electronic shop when we just give him the most minimal, and he makes money by upgrading it. So it's like $10, he earns $2. But think about this. Imagine every town with a solar manufacturing cooperative. I mean, think about that. Instead of having one plant in China build it, and then it has to go through customs and has to go through so many, why not just build it locally? Why? Because remember the thing I told you, every 2 years, you'll have to replace the battery, you have to replace a part, and if you don't do a part or a part or the battery, you just have to throw the whole thing away and have to buy a whole new product off the shelf. Well, this is the opposite one. Oh, I built that. Oh, it's burnt. Wait, I know that. Okay, go to the local electronic shop, buy it, solder it back, and it's good for another 3 years. Change the battery, and it's good for another 3 years. Why is this important, right? Well, we also do 2 watts, which is bigger. And so in a storm, what makes it important is we're one of the fastest when we bring lights for tent cities. We also, when their houses are built, we can do a 2-watt light. And then, of course, what we're really good at is street lights. So we use plastic PVC pipes. We ask the women to, cut the PVC pipes. And remember, we're using aid money instead of it using just for management and telling the government, hey, can you give us large solar lights or something? I mean, we're actually building industries where we're lighting up whole communities. So I want to show you a little bit of how that looks like. Sorry if I'm running a bit late. Am I? Okay, I wanted to show you what that looks like. So I have to go back to the CD, the hard disk. Yeah, sorry. So, wait, let me show you how the women do it first, just quickly, sorry. Taos. Oh, okay. So what we do is we create this job opportunity for women to actually earn, right? So if you see over there, those are thousands of lights. And they learn how to fix it, they learn how to... So imagine this. The greatest source of solar are the local grassroots population. So what you're doing is, if I can get volunteers to come in during disasters, so what I do is I teach a lot of young people about how to build their own solar light, but in a disaster, I text all of them and say, look, I have thousands of parts. I don't have people on the hand. So instead of just wrapping goods, I tell them, can you volunteer your time and light and build these solar lights for this emergency? So it's cheaper. I get an army of volunteers to build solar lights, and I can act the fastest when a disaster strikes to give people back light. So, sorry, it's just, it's kind of not professional, but the point is, it works. So let me show you how it works on the ground. Yeah. So category 5, typhoons are hitting us, 300 kilometers per hour, wipes out power plants, trees fall down. So you have like 14 million people without light in just a couple of hours. So. So yeah, 10,000 people died in 48 hours.
Well, ito nga isang pinapangarap namin sa yung mga tao nandito ngayon na magkaroon ng kahit kaunting ilaw na kasi mga ilang araw na rin kami nagtitiis sa dilim. So ito sa tingin ko mga tao so excited sila makita ng gabi may liwanag naman ng kahit kaunti. Well, una, Hindi ko inisip kung ano man ang naging epekto sa akin ng bagyong yun. Ang ano lang dito, may katungkulan ako, responsibilidad sa barangay dahil ako nga yung barangay chairman dito. So, ang una lang, ang ano ko na lang dyan is tinanggap namin kung anong nangyari at bawat tulong naman kahit gaano kalaki, gaano kaliit, niyayakap namin.
Dito, halo-halo kami. Merong mga taga-ibang barangay, merong taga-ibang barangay at meron ding hindi taga-barangay namin na nakahalo dito sa amin. Kasi kung may ilaw, maliwanag lahat. Ito may posibilidad kasi may mga bata nga. Pag natumba yan, na walang makakita, pwedeng magkasunog. Ayun, yun din ang nakakatakot dito. Pag may kandila na nakalimutang patayin kung ano na, pwede rin yung mag-cause ng sunog.
Ginagawa namin is, ano kung pwede nating turuan ng tao kung paano gumawa ng isang solar light. Kasi yun ang pinaka essential dito kasi wala ng linya, wala ng kuryente.
Ito ay malaking tulong sa amin, lalo na sa akin. Dahil nagsusulat ako gabi-gabi, wala namang kuryente. Hinahandwritten ko na lahat ng ginagawa ko handwritten. So malaking tulong to sa amin. Sa aming lahat, hindi lang sa akin. Lalo na sa may mga anak na maliliit.
Hindi kami makapaniwala. Ganun pala to. So, liwanag po ng daan namin. So, parang nung dating kaba na dumadaan ka sa dilim, wala na siguro ngayon dahil sobrang maliwanag na maliwanag. Kita po naman natin pagbabago.
Solar, made by the people, made here in Tacloban. At maganda po dito is very madaling gayahin. Natapos nila to within 2 days namin ginawa sa Tesla, in partnership with Tesla dito sa Tacloban. At dito
So we put the
namin
production
isang
plant
ininturahan lang namin yung post
right in the center to give people
Dito,
jobs.
isang revolusyon to. Kasi yung tao mismo ang humahanap ng paraan upang umangat, tapos ginagamit pa tong tipong technologies.
Let me single out a couple
Okay.
more people if I can, please. Illac.
Okay, so our point is we build mobile chargers locally. We, the PVC pipes is because that's what's available. But the fact is we're the fastest that we don't have to stand in line for production or importation. But the nice thing is there is in the cycle of disasters, we could do it again and again and again and again. So we have all of these people trained. If there's a disaster, we go there. We ask them to assemble it. We have a small genset that they can all come together. They build one for themselves and then one for their neighbor. So finishing it off, if it's simple, a lot of young people can be involved. If it's too complicated, they said, well, maybe we should be donated that. But if you can get young people to sort of build, so we have all of these clinics where young people, we can sort of explain what Litter of Light is. We go to schools. You can't believe how a simple thing in a school, when you talk about big windmills and this hydro plants, I mean, all this, their eyes just glaze up. It's like, okay, how can we be involved? Just raise funds for some group. It's like, that's great. The point is, they're not involved. They're not creating a product. They're not solving a product. You're just giving them awareness. And unless you can convert that awareness into an actual result, these young people won't be believers. They'll just always be advocates. And so we gather all their bottles, and then we light up a booth, and we show them how bright it is. Like, if we can, and we use this for clinics and all this. So we show the kids that by converting your plastic bottle with water, and then we ask the mothers if they can build a solar light. were able to light up a whole booth. And we put up a booth in England using the kids to build the solar lights. I tell you, there were 13,000 Britons that went inside, and I said, "Oh my gosh, it's just a plastic bottle booth with basic parts." And the kids said, "Look, I built that. I could do something." And they really lined up in the library that I showed you. The kids didn't leave till I actually built it. And so a lot of young advocates and a lot of young kids want to be part of it. But if you make it too complex, too big, too huge, they cannot be part of it. And so the Litter of Light is the complete opposite of that, which is if you can get the community involved, we have an army of people. If you can get young people to volunteer, we can have an army of solar light builders. But at the same time, you take away this complex notion that solar light has to be something imported, that it has to be something expensive, and something so complex that in the developing country, which we're the ones that need it, have to wait for a savior to come in to give us light. And I am not an advocate of that. So that's my presentation, how to give 1 million lights by not actually going there. You don't have to go there. So thank you very much.